So in this screenshot, I took this of the virtual machine that's running Windows NT Server and also has the Frontpage setup program that you can see in the middle of the screen in the folder called FrontPG for Frontpage. Again, this is about the version 1.1 of Frontpage, and I wanted to just kind of show how to get it installed and what it looks like and how it works, but also talk about the history of the internet as far as web servers go and a front page editor like this Microsoft Frontpage and where it came from. So this is using VirtualBox technology, which is free VM software, virtual machine software from Oracle that you can download. And so you're seeing that here too in the screenshot. And I just wanted to show basically where we're going to be going in this video. If you keep watching, there will be a section, like I said, where I pull up some wiki pages and talk about the history of Frontpage and Vermeer Corporation, who created the original version, and how Microsoft purchased them. And then once I go through some other things such as Microsoft Data Center and ChatGPT and how it kind of relates back to all of this original technology, then I will get into using the VirtualBox. I'll do a very quick overview of how to create a virtual machine like what I did here for this video, and then I will get into the actual usage of the Windows NT 4.0 server and where the files are located as I'm showing in the screenshot, and then how to install them. And then once all that's done, I will start to use the Frontpage editor to do some really basic things. I may end up making a follow-up video to this more specifically about the Frontpage Explorer and Frontpage webs and things like that, but I didn't want the video to be too long, so I had to stop at some point. Anyway, that's basically what we'll be going through in this video, and I wanted to give a quick overview of what you're in for if you stay around. And thanks again for stopping by. Well, I'm back from the future. I actually decided to insert another video here. It's about, I think, 9 minutes that shows using the Frontpage Explorer and the link view and some of the kind of cool things from within Frontpage. So I decided to put that first here in this video. And so what you're seeing on the screen is the Frontpage Explorer with a new Acme homepage. I used the Frontpage tools to build myself a brand new corporate website, and so you'll see that in the video right after this. And this link view was created after I used the wizard to create a brand new corporate website. So if you stay tuned, you'll see that first, and then once that section's done, you can stay around if you want to see more details about how I got all of that stuff set up and how it works. So after I completed the first part of the video, I went back to check a couple configuration settings on the NT server and Frontpage and IIS, and I was able to change a couple security parameters. And now I went into the Frontpage Explorer tool, which is what I'm in now, and I told it to create a new corporate presence. There was a wizard that asked me which type of website that I wanted to create, so I'm just gonna walk through this web wizard. It's kind of funny, kind of interesting to see all the different questions it's gonna ask. So I've already selected all of these. Some of them were just selected. Your web page will be built around the home page and a few other main pages. Which pages do you want to include? So if we didn't want to search for them, we could get rid of that. But again, I've already selected everything. If we didn't want a company profile, we could turn that off. The What's New page is where visitors returning to your web will go first. It should be present in, or it should present the reader with the most recent news about your company and your web. So we'll include web changes, press releases, articles, and reviews. How many pages and products 3 seems okay to me, and maybe we'll say 4 services. And then each product or service page will contain a title, a brief description, and a list of customer benefits. So we'll just go ahead and select all of those. The feedback form lets readers tell you what they think about your web, your company, and your products. So what do you want to collect from them? There is the information. We'll go ahead and turn off fax. We'll just ask for those 4 fields. What format do we want for the data? It's going to store it in a file on the web server. We'll say use tab delimited. And table of contents displays a set of links to every page in your web. Using a format similar to the outline view in Frontpage Explorer. Keep pages or keep page list up to date automatically. We'll just leave those 2 turned off and just keep use bullets. What do you want at the top of each page? What should appear at the bottom of every page? So we'll go ahead and leave all of that there. And we get 4 different ways to create the web presence. Do we want plain? Do we want conservative? Do we want flashy? Or do we want cool? That's a tough choice. Flashy or cool? I guess we use flashy. And then we'll say next. Here we can choose from a few different options for customizing the pages in the web. They'll share the color settings that I define here. You can change them later by editing the page titled web colors. But we'll just leave them as is. Although I guess we could say, okay, what about a gray texture? How about a white texture? We'll go ahead and use that. Many web authors like to identify pages that aren't quite finished. Would you like to mark each unfinished page with a under construction? Heck yeah, we want that under construction. And what is the full name of the company, the one-word version of this name, and the address? So we'll just leave that in there. And then it wants our information to put into the website, so we'll click that and click next. And then it says those are all the answers the wizard needs to create your corporate web presence, and we'll be online on the internet live in just a few minutes. You can finish customizing the web pages after they are uploaded to the server. The wizard will add some tasks to the to-do list to help you remember to edit them. So let's go ahead and click finish. And what do you know? It worked. That's sweet. So here we can see the link view, which I kind of showed that was available before, and you can see the little plus signs that you can click on, and that expands or collapses the views. So it's kind of cool how you can just visually go through your web page or website and just keep going down to the bottom of all of it until you get as far as you need to go. So that's pretty cool. Again, 1996 technology, Frontpage version 1.1. That's this option here, link view. And then we have summary view, so we can show the summary view of all of the pages. So there's all the pages it created for us. Form page, home page, our press releases. We have 3 press releases, 3 product data sheets. And then because I selected 4, we got 4 services, a table of contents, a text search, and a what's new, and then a series of images and the logo page, the included navigation links, web colors, and the results of form 1. And that uses this thing called the Save Results bot. So there is our 2 main different ways to view the information in this web page or website. And you can see up here at the top, it's called Frontpage Explorer Corp 1. That's what I named it. It was off screen. when I did that, but that's the name I gave it. So now we can see the IP address /corp1. So let's go ahead and pull that up and see how it looks. So let's go ahead and pop open our web browser, and then I will paste in the URL, which is IP address /corp1, and let's look at our new exciting website for our corporation. I'll go ahead and resize this web browser a little bit so we can see more of the information. And so there's where we could put our company logo, and there's our under construction page, and the other information you saw that I put in the wizard. And so let's go to our what's new page, so we can see it built some hyperlinks. Like, let's see our press release. So there's our press release. Here's our products and services. The name of the product goes to our product page that has key benefits, pricing information, and then there is the form that you could fill out. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay, so let's submit the request. You're about to send several lines of text over the internet. It may be possible for other people to see what you're sending. Are you sure you want to send? Tell me about internet security. Or I don't want to see that again. I'm just going to click yes. Hey, check that out. It looks like it worked. And if you remember, I mentioned VTI, that you see that sometimes when you're using this front page stuff. Well, there it is. Vermeer Technology Incorporated. So there's a tidbit left over from their corporation, from the company that created the original version of Front Page. Well, so there is a brand new corporate website that we created just by clicking a couple buttons and using this new front page tool from 1996. Hopefully you found that interesting too. I'm glad I was able to get that working. It was just a security setting I had to go make inside of this configuration to change some password authentication stuff. And then it allowed me to go ahead and open up the web. So from there, of course, you could edit pages and save pages and things like that. So anyway, I just thought it'd be kind of fun to go through their wizard and create ourselves a brand new corporate website. I did want to show briefly using this link view to go ahead and edit a page. So they mentioned in the wizard about editing the web colors page. So we could go to one of these pages in the site and click on it. So let's go to the press release, double click it, and it takes us right to the press release. So then we could go ahead and make our changes and then save our changes. PR03.htm. So there you go. It's a pretty cool way for what was available at the time to quickly put together a website, to be able to visually map it out and edit it and do forms and publishing, all just with a few mouse clicks. It's pretty interesting to see where the technology was, and of course all the new technology we have now. And Front Page was integrated into many versions of Office up until I think it was 2007 or 8. It'll be in the wiki pages when they stopped, and then they replaced it with like SharePoint Designer and I think some other tools. So I'm going to go ahead and close this Front Page web, and we'll create one more new one using these tools. So I'm in the Frontpage Explorer, and this was the Corp 1 website. So that's the one I have open. Let's go ahead and close that. And now we're going to do File, New Web, or we could do Open Web. And then we could list them, and we can see we have the root and the corp one. So now we'll go ahead and create a new one, New Web, and let's see which kind do we want to create here. Customer support, discussion web, an empty web, a learning front page, personal web, or a project web. I guess we'll go ahead and do a project web. So we'll go ahead and leave the server name the same, project web 1. Click OK. And it looks like it just created it. That time it didn't take us through the wizard like it did for the corporate homepage. So now we can go ahead and fill in this project web 1 in the web browser. So let's go ahead and do that. Project web 1, hit enter, and so there it is. It looks really basic as compared to the corporate web. Our schedule page, you can scroll down and see milestones, deliveries, events, the status page. Of course, since it was created back then in 1996, they have links to 1995 and 1996. The archive page, a search page, and a discussions page. And I don't know if they built these out. Let's see. Yeah, really basic page there. So there was another way to create a quick website. And we could close that. And let's try one more. New web. And I'm not sure which one of these might ask more questions. I guess we could just try the corporate or customer support web. Let's see if it's going to ask any questions. We'll call it support 1. And nope, looks like it doesn't ask us any questions. So the corporate presence web wizard was the one that really asked us a lot of questions of how to customize everything. And so then I just double clicked in the map here to open up this page so you could make changes to it with all of the wonderful front page options, and then save it, and job done. So there is just a couple other features of the Frontpage Explorer and the Frontpage Web working together on the NT4 IIS server. So keep watching if you want to see more details and more history about Frontpage, the company that started it or created it, Vermeer, and some other interesting things on how to set this all up in a virtualized environment. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I just wanted to have a little fun and talk about some technology that was used to help build up the internet as we know it now. And it involves a product called Microsoft FrontPage. And in order to get it running, I'm going to install the Windows NT server, because when you look on the Windows NT server CD-ROM that came from Microsoft, you'll see there are early versions of FrontPage that you can install. So I'm just showing here a web page that has all of these different versions of FrontPage. It was a very important product for Microsoft, and it has a really interesting history that I wanted to talk about a little bit in this video too. So hopefully you'll find this interesting to take a look back at Microsoft FrontPage, at web servers, the history of them, kind of some of the popularity, how it changed over the years, and also how it ties in with today and the world of Microsoft and their data centers, and how they're building these massive web server based data centers for artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. So I've opened up some web browser tabs here to show the things that I just mentioned, and then we'll actually get into doing an installation and taking a look at the front page files found on the Windows NT server disk. So here is a copy of the Windows NT server. I used physical media boxes like you see here, and the same thing for front page. I actually found a copy of front page like this one here, Microsoft FrontPage 97 bonus pack. I won't be installing it yet in this video because I want to go back even further than that. So if we take a look here at the Microsoft Wikipedia page, and we can look right here in the history and see that FrontPage was initially created by Vermeer Technologies, and if you actually used it, you would see these underscore VTI. Well, that's Vermeer Technologies Incorporated, so that was actually retained, and you would see that directory wondering what it was when you're using the product. So according to Wikipedia, Vermeer was acquired by Microsoft in January 1996 so that Microsoft could add FrontPage to its product lineup, because things were getting pretty heated up with the internet back at that time, and they wanted to get an advantage in what they called the browser wars, as FrontPage was designed to create web pages for their own web browser, Internet Explorer. So if we take a look at Vermeer Technologies, here Vermeer Technologies Incorporated was a software company founded in 1994 by Charles H. Ferguson and Randy Fogard. Its products were a website development tool called FrontPage and a web server called the Personal Web Server, which complemented developing in FrontPage. Vermeer launched the initial version of FrontPage on October 2nd, 1995, and then it was not that much longer after that. The company was purchased by Microsoft for $133 million in 1996. That would be $248 in present day terms. And also, it's interesting here they mentioned the company's birth, development, and sale were the subject of Ferguson's 1990 book, High Stakes, No Prisoners. And if you go to, I pulled up a page here, right here. If you search for book about Vermeer and FrontPage Silicon Valley, you'll see right here on Amazon, you can actually purchase a copy of it. And I believe it's available possibly here on books.google.com. I'm starting to read the book, and it is really interesting. Look back at what was going on in Silicon Valley in the United States at that time. So it's a really interesting read, and you may want to take a look at that if you'd like to learn more about what was going on in Silicon Valley at that time. And there's a lot of big names you may have heard of in the industry that were all kind of doing things back at that time. And also that Vermeer, the company that made this front page, was in the middle of all of it. So it's very interesting, and if you like reading books, I would suggest you take a look at that one. If we fast forward a little bit, we can look at a Google search here for Microsoft's new data centers, and there's all kinds of articles about them building their new data centers, and I have mentioned that in other videos of mine. But from what I understand, they're planning on building a new data center every 2 to 3 days. And according to what I've read, like this article here, Microsoft accelerates data center build to support ChatGPT. And so I pulled up that article just to look at real quickly here. This was from March 22nd, 2023. Microsoft has surged into the lead in artificial intelligence with its $10 billion investment in ChatGPT, and OpenAI is taking a leadership position in building the new and expanded data center infrastructure that will be needed to support artificial intelligence. So they go on to just mention several different new campuses or data centers that they're building. Here they disclosed that they're planning on building a new 750,000 square foot hyperscale data center campus in Quincy, Washington, 20 miles from Microsoft's core Washington data center hub. And then they go on to talk about some other ones here, planning to build, well, a $2.3 million waterworks installation to pump water from river to cool the advanced microprocessors at the campus. Each of the 3 buildings on the campus will require at least 121,000 gallons of water each day. They also announced a $176 million expansion of its data center hub in San Antonio. They purchased a $42 million 30-acre industrial site in the Hoffman Estates area of Chicago for data center development. And then they say here, in fact, AI will require a different cloud computing framework for its digital infrastructure, one that will redefine current data center networks in terms of where certain data center clusters are located and what specific functionalities these facilities have. The data crunching needs of AI platforms are so vast. OpenAI, creator of ChatGPT, which it introduced in November of 2022, would not be able to keep running the Brain Wordmeister without hitching a ride on Microsoft's soon-to-be upgraded Azure cloud platform. So I'll include a link to this article. It is very interesting, and I'm just kind of mentioning, like, you know, how did all this get started? And well, it started back with web server technology, and it's ended up now with artificial intelligence and these massive data centers. But I think it's interesting to take a look back. It wasn't that long ago when all of this got started, and the Wikipedia page about web servers kind of breaks it down into some categories. 1989 to 1991, Sir Tim Berners-Lee had proposed a new project to his employer CERN with the goal of easing the exchange of information between scientists by using a hypertext system. The proposal, titled Hypertext in CERN, asked for comments, and it was read by several people. In October 1990, the proposal was reformulated and enriched, and finally it was approved. So then it goes on to talk a little bit about the components of it, like a graphical web browser called World Wide Web, a portable line mode web browser, and a web server known as CERN HTTPD. So those early web browsers retrieve web pages written in a simple early form of HTML, and it was named HTTP 0.9. Then in 1991, Tim Berners-Lee announced the birth of www technology and encouraged scientists to adopt and develop it. Soon after, those programs, along with their source code, were made available to people interested in their usage. Although the source code was not formally licensed or placed in the public domain, CERN informally allowed users to develop and experiment further on top of them. Berners-Lee started promoting the adoption and usage of these programs along with their porting to other operating systems. And I think a couple interesting things here. Here was a picture of the first web proposal, 1989, information management and proposal. So it's pretty cool. You can read that and see it on Wikipedia or other places. This was all brand new. And then this is supposedly the world's first web server, a Next computer workstation with Ethernet, 1990. The case label reads, "This machine is a server. Do not power it down." That's kind of funny. There's a sticker there. So what happened after that? As they said here, fast and wild development, 1991 to 1995. That's when, during that time period, towards the end of it, is when some of the more commercial web server tools were starting to show up on the scene. And that links in with Vermeer making their first version of FrontPage on October 2nd, 1995. Because they wanted to have a way for people to be able to easily make web pages. The web was becoming very popular and everybody wanted to have websites and web pages. So it was a really perfect time for them to make a product like that. So during this time here, 91 to 95, basically things really started to take off. It looks like here, the beginning of 1994, the most notable of the new web servers was NCSA HTTPD, which ran on a variety of Unix-based OSs and could serve dynamically generated content by implementing the post HTTP method and the CGI to communicate with external programs. That's a really big deal because a lot of the technology we have now is based on some form of that original technology. These capabilities, along with the multimedia features of the NCSA's Mosaic browser, highlighted the potential of web technology for publishing and distributing or distributed computing applications. And so then looks like the end of 1994, a new commercial web server named NetSite was released with specific features. It was one of the first, or the first one of many similar products that were developed first by Netscape and then also by Sun Microsystems and finally by Oracle. In mid-1995, the first version of IIS was released for Windows NT OS. From Microsoft. This marked the entry into the field of the World Wide Web technologies, and it was a very important commercial developer, Microsoft, and vendor that has played and is still playing a key role on both sides. Of course, we have Microsoft Azure and now Microsoft, basically ChatGPT, that are taking over and getting into so many different things. And the second half of 95, CERN and NCSA web servers started to decline in global percentage usage because of the widespread adoption of new web servers, which had much faster development cycle along with more features, more fixes applied, and more performances than previous ones. I won't go into much more here. After 1996 through 2014, just try and highlight a couple things here. At the end of 1996, there were already over 50 known different web servers. So we went from basically one or two to now 50 in just a matter of a few years. So anyone who wanted to have a domain name and or to host websites, they were using these web servers. So then you'll see things about Netscape and the Apache HTTP server and how it became very popular. Here it says the Apache resulted in the most used web server from 96 until the end of 2015, when after a few years of decline, it was surpassed initially by IS and then Nginx, which of course is very popular now. Afterward, IS dropped to a much lower percentages of usage than Apache. So I just, again, wanted to kind of talk about some of the earlier technology that led us to where we're at now and how it's all kind of related to what we're seeing now in our new web servers and new technologies, and how it is being used to power things like, or some form of it, power things like ChatGPT and artificial intelligence and some of the cool technologies we have now. So there are some links and articles I will include in the description if you're curious to read more about this. But I did want to go through a little bit of the history first, and now I'm going to go ahead and get started on the next section of the video, which will be showing the process I used to install Windows NT 4, because that's how we can get access to the basically first Microsoft version of FrontPage that I'm aware of. Right here, Microsoft's initial outing under the Microsoft name came in 1996 with the release of NT4 server and its constituent web server IIS2. Bundled on the CD with the Windows NT server release was FrontPage 1.1, and that would run under Windows NT 4 server or workstation or Windows 95. and I've seen the folders on that CD-ROM, and I'll be showing them in the video. There were also some other things called the IS extensions, front page server extensions. I won't be going into those in too much detail. I may just mention them briefly, but those are really important too. So let's go ahead and pause the video for a second while I pull up my virtual machine. So here I have the Oracle VirtualBox VM Manager. And if you've never seen or used that before, it's a free and really cool technology that allows you to load up virtual machines of older technology if you want to explore them like I've done in this video. So that website is VirtualBox, VirtualBox.org. And this is their homepage. VirtualBox is a powerful x86 and AMD 64, Intel 64 virtualization product for enterprise as well as home use. It's extremely feature-rich, high-performance product for enterprise customers. Also, it's great for free use when you want to do things like experiment with older technology. It supports a large number of guest operating systems. That's what we'll be loading inside of our host machine. Not limited to NT4, Windows 2000, XP, Server 2003, Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, DOS, Windows 3.1, many versions of Linux, Solaris, Open Solaris, OS2, and OpenBSD. It's being actively developed. So you can download it from the downloads page here. And it doesn't take long to install. It's not really a huge program. So let's go ahead and pull it back up. I will show you basically how I created this VM. There's several copies of it right now so that I could experiment when working on this video. But if you click on File, you can go into your preferences or go to Machine and then click on New, which I'll go ahead and do that. And let's just say we're going to call it NT4 server. For YouTube, say that's what we want to call it. We don't have an ISO image because I'm using an actual copy of the operating system on a CD-ROM. So let's scroll back to NT4. It's actually in this list here. And as it says here, no OS image is selected. The guest OS will need to be installed manually. So I had to check and make sure the CD was not inserted yet. I'll go ahead and click Next. And you can configure your properties of the hardware. This is what I chose, 128 meg, 1 CPU. Create a virtual disk now. I'll just go ahead and make it 1 gig this time and pre-allocate. But there's other options here if you've never used VirtualBox before. But I'm just gonna have it create a new virtual hard disk, then click Next. Then it gives you your basically summary of what you're going to do. So I could click Finish, but I won't since I've already done that. But once it's done, it creates like an instance here. So I right clicked on that and I'll click on Settings. And here is the settings for the virtual machine. So there's system settings. I have an optical drive, which is a CD-ROM attached. A basic display setting, 32 megs. I also scaled it up to 200% so it's easier to see it. Otherwise it's really small. And so there is the C drive for it, and there's also the host drive, which has the Windows NT server installed in it. But the drive is not closed yet at this point, because if I did that, when I started up the machine, it would try to install the Windows NT server again, and I don't want to do that right now. And I did get the sound or audio enabled in there by choosing the Sound Blaster 16 and just the default host audio driver. And I went ahead and enabled the network adapter, but it doesn't have a default gateway, so it's not actually able to access the internet, which I don't want at this point. Serial ports are not enabled. I did go ahead and enable USB, which you don't have to do that. Shared folders is not enabled. So that's basically what the parameters are. I'll just go ahead and double click this now and we'll let it get started. So over here on the right, you can see it's powering up the VM. So I'm going to close that message, and now I'm inside the VM and I can just select that. That's what it gives you when you start up the Microsoft NT4. So we'll just start it using the last known configuration, and then this is the screen that you see. I'm sorry if it's a little hard to see. It'll scale up once it gets started. So there it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop in the CD so we'll be able to see that. Let me go ahead and get logged in here. And so you have to go up here to input and tell it to send a Control-Alt-Delete. So I actually just set this up and called the domain YouTube. And it does take a second to get logged in. And there's your welcome to Windows NT. Every time you log in, you can show that and get tips or whatever, see what's new. And so there's not a lot of shortcuts on here. I didn't install anything beyond the basics. So I just had to tweak the desktop area a little bit. It can dynamically size things, but I just wanted to be part of its standard size. So I went ahead and did that. Now I can click on apply. And so we have a basic 12 by 80 by 960, and it is scaled up. That's why it is as large as it looks like. And as a side note, like, there is volume in here, which is kind of fun to have. There's a basically Sound Blaster card that's been inserted into this VM, so it does work. Well, all right, let's go ahead and pop in the NT4 CD-ROM and we'll take a look at the contents of it and get FrontPage installed. So I just popped it into the physical CD-ROM drive and we'll see it pop up here. So it had given an error there. I had to stop the video for a second and just pop out the CD and put it back in. So I've inserted it now, and if we go into my computer, we can see right here, that's the CD-ROM inserted into the hard drive or the CD-ROM drive. So we can explore it. And so there is the contents of the Windows NT Server 4.0 CD-ROM. This is just a screen that pops up when you install or insert the CD-ROM into the machine. So right here is the directory I was originally talking about, FrontPage right there. So you have all your normal Windows NT 4 folders and files, and you can see it was from 10/14/1996. And if we go into the FrontPage folder, there's actually a document here we can look at. And it's kind of interesting, the historical significance of this. The Microsoft FrontPage 1.1 and IS Server 2.0. And if you look through this file, there's a lot of interesting information in here about setting it up. But I want to scroll through and look for something here about Vermeer. It was in another file that I will open up here momentarily, but this is the how-to security troubleshooting and product support notes for this product. So it's just fun to see that. And if we go into the IS extension, there's a setup program for that too. And then the front page. Here's a front page README. And this is for version 1.1. And if you remember back in the first part of the video where I showed the history of it, you could see that version 1.1 was the first version that Microsoft has, and it's on this Windows NT server. You wouldn't think a FrontPage front-end web editing program would be on a server CD, but that's just how they did it back then apparently. And so this is the notes for that. And I'm gonna scroll down and look. There was like an upgrade from version 1. I'm looking for that. Well, I guess it's not in there either. I'll find it. But I think it's fun to see this old stuff here in the original form. Welcome to FrontPage release 1.1. This is the version for Windows 95 and Windows NT. This document contains important information about this FrontPage release. And they do mention here installing FrontPage over version 1.0. And they have this TCP/IP test utility, some troubleshooting tips. Okay, the information was in here. It's just down here when installing FrontPage 1.1 on a system that already has FrontPage version 1.0 installed. You can upgrade the FrontPage client and server. And so they go on to mention here about installing the 1.1 personal web server in a separate area if your version 1.0 personal web server is in production and you don't want to disturb it. Then they go on to say here, let's make this bigger. So I made the font a little bit bigger here. Let's go back down to the section that I was in. Right here. For example, if FrontPage 1 client is installed in the default C:/Vermeer directory, do not install FrontPage 1.1 in C:/Vermeer. And they go on to mention it some more here. After installing FrontPage 1.1, if you no longer plan to use your version 1.0 personal web server, you can delete the following items: the C:/Vermeer directory, and then under NT 3.5, the Vermeer program group. So it looks like it created that when it was installed, or the Vermeer folder, the Vermeer.ini, Vermeer.log, and the Vermeer.out. And then some other files that can be deleted. So as we saw in the articles in the beginning of the video where they talked about Vermeer, we can see the history of that here in this file from the CD-ROM in the FrontPage README file. So I think it's kind of cool to see that, them talking about how to basically deal with the existence of the original FrontPage. So here I went into my control panel. So I clicked on Start, Settings, Control Panel, and came into here. So I could go to Add and Remove Programs, and I do have the Internet Information Server already installed, and also the VirtualBox guest add-ons, which makes it easier to just run the virtual NT4 inside of VirtualBox. So those are the only things that are installed now. So I'll do a quick showing of the IIS and the home page of that web server. And that is the web server that's running here locally on this Windows NT server. So I double clicked on the Internet Explorer icon, and it's kind of funny how old this is. This is Microsoft Internet Explorer for Windows NT version 2.0, build 1381 from 1996, based on NCSA Mosaic. NCSA Mosaic was developed by the National Computer for Supercomputing Applications at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, distributed under a licensing agreement with Spyglass, and the other information there from Netscape, RSA, data security. Portions are based on the work of the independent JPEG group. So that's kind of funny to see how old this version of the web browser is, version 2. And anyway, this is a page that Microsoft put on the operating system. You can see the folder where it came from in 1996. So let me go ahead and get the web server page pulled up. So here I clicked on the start button in Internet Information Server. We can see there's a setup page, the Internet Service Manager, the Internet Service Manager HTML, the key manager, and product documentation. So I went ahead and opened up the folder of the C drive in this virtual machine, and we can see there's a folder called inetpub. That's created by default, and then there's FTP root, gopher root, scripts root, and www root. That's the one that we're interested in. So this will be the default page that gets opened up when I pull up the web server. And then it's kind of interesting. They have these samples, a database sample, a guest book, HTML sample, a sample site, and possibly some other pages in these samples. So we're going to go ahead and pull up a web browser and look at this default page here. So here I had to check the IP address that I used when I set this up. So it's 192.168.200.1. So let's go ahead and open that up. And I did have to open up a separate window. They didn't have tabs in the browser. So let's go ahead and type that in. And so there we have the wonderful original Microsoft Internet Information Server running on NT4. So we can go ahead and maximize that, and we can see copyright 1996, and then they have the sample sites when I was showing that directory. So like the fictitious Volcano Coffee Company, it's playing a audio in the background. I think I'll mute that. Alright, so it's funny to see these old graphics, scrolling text, animated graphics or GIFs. There's a form, and then we can click the back button, send me a sample, the taste tour, go back to the main page. So there is a walkthrough of one of their sample pages here. Let's go ahead and increase the font size. So it makes it obviously a little easier to see. Then we can go back to the main sample website, go back to the home page, and then they have like a database example that I'm not going to be setting up in this video. It takes a little while to set that up. You have to set up like a SQL server. And then they have some other ISAPI Internet Server Application Program Interface, High Performance Server Extension, API supported by Microsoft IIS and Peer Web Services. ISAPI allows dynamic responses to HTTP requests instead of just returning static HTML files. Early dynamic web pages. So there we have our web server running inside of the Windows NT. So let's go back to the front page part of this. Well, and I also needed to pull up the Microsoft IIS Service Manager. And so there's www, Gopher, and FTP. Let's double click on the www and we can see the basic parameters. It's running on port 80. Allow anonymous connections. There's the directories that we were looking at. The inetpub www root. And then the IS admin page. And the scripts folder, and enable the default document. So there's also logging. It's doing logging behind the scenes. And there's some security that you can set up. Some of these things are important when you're working with FrontPage. Here I also pulled up that virtual site that we just saw, IIS admin. So there are some settings here you can look at from a web browser instead of the other page that we were looking at, which was the desktop application. And then there's this installation and administration guide. A lot of information in here. Looks like 11 chapters and a glossary. And sometimes we may have to consult this information for getting the front page backend services to work properly. So here I can go ahead and click on installing IIS, and it goes into a lot of details about what's required, how to do it, how to configure things, your security checklist, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize some of these screens now, and we'll go back to the front page folder where we were looking. So here is the front page folder, and I'm going to go ahead and run the setup program. And so it's starting up. There you go, front page 1.1. Welcome to the front page setup program. Exit all other programs. We're going to go ahead and try it just as it is now. And it will install it in the Microsoft front page folder. Do you want to do typical or custom? We're going to go ahead and do custom. Typical installs front page client software, a personal web server, and the front page server extensions recommended for most users. We will use that. Let's go ahead and choose custom, and then we can see here what it says it's going to do. The client software, which is front page, and the personal web server, and the server extensions. And it's going to require a whole 8,292K. Pretty crazy. The stuff was so small. The personal web server was 474K. The server extensions were 491K. But let's go ahead and just do typical and click next. And then it's going to create a program folder. I think we'll go ahead and call it 1.1 in case I can ever lay my hands on the original Vermeer Technologies front page 1.0. I haven't been able to find it anywhere yet. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist or won't be for sale somewhere someday. So let's click next. It's going to install a fresh copy of front page with these components, client software and server extensions. And there goes the front page installer. It won't take very long. This is all running on the host machine, which does have an SSD drive, which is pretty fast. And the program's pretty small also. So setup is complete. So let's take a look at our start menu now under programs. There we have front page 1.1. We have the editor, the explorer, a front page TCP/IP test, and the server administrator. And if we go back into our control panel and take a quick look under add and remove programs, we'll see front page 1.1 is there. And so we'll go ahead and start up the front page editor. There it is, lots of buttons to click on. If we look at the help about Microsoft Front Page, version 1.1, 1995 and 1996. The Vermeer is not mentioned here, just Microsoft Front Page Editor. So we can open a file, which I will do. We'll open up one of those sample pages in here and take a look. So when I was opening and closing front page there, it opened up this Front Page Explorer, and I gave it a fake host name called localyoutube.com. Now you can start to use front page, so I'll click OK. And so the Front Page Explorer, what version is this? It's version 1.1 also. And this has like a link view or a summary view, which is kind of cool. And I will attempt to get that working here. Link to images, repeated links, links inside page. So it gives like a visual representation of some information. And you can go ahead and go back to your front page editor. So new web or open web. Those are the main options in this Explorer program. So I clicked on new web, and it has a template or a wizard that it can run. A blank page or a corporate presence wizard, or a customer support web, a discussion web wizard, a table of contents and a full text searching with a group with threads, an empty web, learning front page. It's use this template with the learning front page tutorial and front page help, personal web, create a simple web page with a personal homepage or project web, create a web for a project containing list of members, status, schedules, archives, and discussions. That sounds kind of interesting. Well, we'll go ahead and try to do a corporate presence, and I'll just call it Corp 0. And it's given an error, so I'll have to look into that and see what the deal is. So after I completed the first part of the video, I went back to check a couple configuration settings on the NT server and front page and IIS, and I was able to change a couple security parameters. And now I went into the Front Page Explorer tool, which is what I'm in now, and I told it to create a new corporate presence. There was a wizard that asked me which type of website that I wanted to create, so I'm just gonna walk through this web wizard. It's kind of funny, kind of interesting to see all the different questions it's gonna ask. So I've already selected all of these. Some of them were just selected. Your web page will be built around the home page and a few other main pages. Which pages do you want to include? So if we didn't want to search for them, we could get rid of that. But again, I've already selected everything. If we didn't want a company profile, we could turn that off. The What's New page is where visitors returning to your web will go first. It should be present in, or it should present the reader with the most recent news about your company and your web. So we'll include web changes, press releases, articles, and reviews. How many pages and products? 3 seems okay to me. And maybe we'll say 4 services. And then each product or service page will contain a title, a brief description, and a list of customer benefits. So we'll just go ahead and select all of those. The feedback form lets readers tell you what they think about your web, your company, and your products. So what do you want to collect from them? There is the information. We'll go ahead and turn off facts. We'll just ask for those 4 fields. What format do we want for the data? It's going to store it in a file on the web server. We'll say use tab delimited. And table of contents displays a set of links to every page in your web. Using a format similar to the outline view in Frontpage Explorer. Keep pages or keep page list up to date automatically. We'll just leave those two turned off and just keep use bullets. What do you want at the top of each page? What should appear at the bottom of every page? So we'll go ahead and leave all of that there. And we get 4 different ways to create the web presence. Do we want plain? Do we want conservative? Do we want flashy? Or do we want cool? That's a tough choice. Flashy or cool? I guess we use flashy. And then we'll say next. Here we can choose from a few different options for customizing the pages in the web. They'll share the color settings that I define here. You can change them later by editing the page titled web colors. But we'll just leave them as is. Although I guess we could say, okay, what about a gray texture? How about a white texture? We'll go ahead and use that. Many web authors like to identify pages that aren't quite finished. Would you like to mark each unfinished page with a under construction? Heck yeah, we want that under construction. And what is the full name of the company, the one-word version of this name, and the address? So we'll just leave that in there. And then it wants our information to put into the website. So we'll click that and click next. And then it says, those are all the answers the wizard needs to create your corporate web presence, and we'll be online on the internet live in just a few minutes. You can finish customizing the web pages after they are uploaded to the server. The wizard will add some tasks to the to-do list to help you remember to edit them. So let's go ahead and click finish. And what do you know? It worked. That's sweet. So here we can see the link view, which I kind of showed that was available before, and you can see the little plus signs that you can click on, and that expands or collapses the views. So it's kind of cool how you can just visually go through your web page or website and just keep going down to the bottom of all of it until you get as far as you need to go. So that's pretty cool. Again, 1996 technology, Frontpage version 1.1. That's this option here, link view. And then we have summary view, so we can show the summary view of all of the pages. So there's all the pages it created for us. Form page, home page, our press releases. We have 3 press releases, 3 product data sheets. And then because I selected 4, we got 4 services, a table of contents, a text search, and a what's new, and then a series of images and the logo page, the included navigation links, web colors, and the results of form 1. And that uses this thing called the Save Results bot. So there is our 2 main different ways to view the information in this web page or website. And you can see up here at the top, it's called Frontpage Explorer Corp 1. That's what I named it. It was off screen when I did that, but that's the name I gave it. So now we can see the IP address /Corp 1. So let's go ahead and pull that up and see how it looks. So let's go ahead and pop open our web browser, and then I will paste in the URL, which is IP address /Corp 1. And let's look at our new exciting website for our corporation. I'll go ahead and resize this web browser a little bit so we can see more of the information. And so there is where we could put our company logo And there's our under construction page and the other information you saw that I put in the wizard. And so let's go to our what's new page. So we can see it built some hyperlinks, like let's see our press release. So there's our press release. Here's our products and services. The name of the product goes to our product page. That has key benefits, pricing information, and then there is the form that you could fill out. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay, so let's submit the request. You're about to send several lines of text over the internet. It may be possible for other people to see what you're sending. Are you sure you want to send? Tell me about internet security. Or I don't want to see that again. I'm just going to click yes. Hey, check that out. It looks like it worked. And if you remember, I mentioned VTI, that you see that sometimes when you're using this front page stuff. Well, there it is. Vermeer Technology Incorporated. So there's a tidbit left over from their corporation, from the company that created the original version of Front Page. Well, so there is a brand new corporate website that we created just by clicking a couple buttons and using this new front page tool from 1996. Hopefully you found that interesting too. I'm glad I was able to get that working. It was just a security setting I had to go make inside of this configuration to change some password authentication stuff. And then it allowed me to go ahead and open up the web. So from there, of course, you could edit pages and save pages and things like that. So anyway, I just thought it'd be kind of fun to go through their wizard and create ourselves a brand new corporate website. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and close this Frontpage Explorer and go back to the front page program itself. Well, one other thing, this front page TCP IP test, it's just showing us 32-bit WinSock, yes, the local IP address 127.0.0, the host name, the IP address, and the local host, if it's basically enabled or not. And they have a explanation page here. It says it found a compatible WinSock compliant TCP IP stack. They were able to find the host name and IP address that correspond to your machine, and were also able to use the localhost address and alias. When Frontpage asks for your web server, you can reply with any of the following. That information may come in handy in a little bit here. Well, go ahead and minimize the front page directory. So again, that came from the NT4 CD-ROM and was the setup program. And so I'm going to go ahead and open location, and I'm going to put in the IP address that we looked at before. So let's go ahead and open up the root of the web server running on this machine. And so there, it looks like it went ahead and opened it up in the editor. And so from there, you can like look at properties. You can see where the logo came from and some of the basic properties that it has here for an image. You can add additional attributes or value pairs to the current HTML tag. And then just like text editing, you can change your text, change the font size, change how it's aligned, make it a numbered list. You can add in form, one-line text box, scrolling text box, check boxes, radio buttons, drop-down menus, and push buttons. Here's how you can create hyperlinks. So like if we click on this hyperlink, it does know that that is a hyperlink, and it says what page to open and where the link goes to on the World Wide Web. Let's go ahead and make a change. So hello YouTube, now I'll go ahead and click save. Okay, it wants us to open a web to receive this page. Please open a web and save the page again. I think at this point I'm probably going to end this video. I know it was a little bit longer video, but again I wanted to show the history of Frontpage, where it came from, and how to install it from the NT 4.0 server CD-ROM and how to use it. I will try and make a follow-up video where we use some of these other parts of Frontpage. I think it'll be interesting to take a look at that, but I hope you found the video interesting. I know it's a little different than what I normally make, but once in a while I would like to make some videos like this just to look back at technology, how we got to where we're at, and to see how much basically more simple things were, but in some ways kind of worse than the newer technology. I do appreciate you stopping by and watching the video. Again, I hope you found it interesting in some way, and I will talk to you soon. I'm planning on making another video pretty soon about chatbots, OpenAI, Vercel, Next.js. There is a new application or code that they provided on their GitHub page that makes it really easy to spin that up. So I plan on taking a look at that and then possibly come back to using this Frontpage Explorer and web tool. Have a great day. Thanks.
If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.